687. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take Him at His word, just to rest upon His promise, just to know thus saith the Lord. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I prove Him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. Oh, how sweet to trust in Jesus, just to trust His cleansing blood, just in simple faith to partake beneath the healing cleansing fire. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I prove Him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. Yes, 'tis sweet to trust in Jesus, just from sin and self to cease, just from Jesus simply taking life and rest and joy and peace. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I prove Him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. I'm so glad I learned to trust Thee, precious Jesus, Savior, friend. And I know that Thou art with me, wilt be with me to the end. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I prove Him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. I didn't have the long sleeves, so. Somebody will get there, Brother Lord. Somebody will get there.
In the yellow book, we're talking about prejudice today. I started to say that it doesn't exist anymore. We don't have to worry about it, but we know better than that. What do you think of when someone says you're prejudiced toward something, or you're prejudiced about something? And it can be simple things. It can be monumental things.
When you make up your mind, it's not sufficient.
Okay? You've already made up your mind about something without having all the information that you can get, right? I think that's kind of scary because my wording was making up your mind about someone or something before fully investigating the facts. I think that's perfect with what you just said. You made up your mind before you found out about something. Politically, we see that.
Everybody's prejudiced about something.
In a sense, they are. And the author has his favorite question in all these answers, all these lessons we've been studying. One of his favorite questions is number 8 in this lesson: is all prejudice bad or evil or sinful? We look at 3 or 4 different ways there. Make up your mind before you know the truth or before you found out all the facts. It's dangerous. Dangerous at best. If you were raised in the church by godly parents and you see what the church does, you see what the church teaches, you've got a prejudice about other denominations out there, or the denominations that are out there, not other, versus the church. You've got something preconceived, but you have to investigate it before you can become a Christian and life your life. Know the facts before you make your mind. And that's kind of what I thought of when we started the lesson. Number 2, which seems more prejudiced. Rich people or poor people? The rich class or the poor class? Who's more prejudiced toward the other side? Normally the poor. Because we think that sometimes the rich people got it by hook, crook, or any way they could. The rich, I kind of went with the poor first. The rich I'm kind of thinking about how they might be prejudiced toward the poor, but sadly they don't care. I'll say it that way. We've got the super elite. We've heard that the past couple of weeks in the news that don't worry day to day about expenses, what things cost. Then we've got the others that are struggling to stay just above the poverty level. And then you got that are falling into what we classify as the poor level, struggling to just get the necessities. So we need to be very careful. Sometimes our attitude, because we are either struggling or feeling sorry for ourselves if we're not careful, we will be prejudiced or adjust our thinking about the poor and rich before we know all the truth. Women or men toward each other? Who seems more prejudiced?
Women.
Men. Maybe you on this side. Maybe you on this side.
Mine in first.
It's just like the rich and poor, they're all the same. You find them on each side.
Find on both sides, right? And I think that's kind of what I was wanting to point out. If you think about one, it could be better. In the church, if you've got a modernistic idea about who should be the preacher, you can be prejudiced about the Church of Christ. Likewise, if you're a male, you be prejudiced toward women, and there's not a lot of. So far, we haven't talked about love at all. But we haven't talked about working together at all. We talked about making up our mind about something before fully understanding or investigating the facts. Preconceived ideas controlling our lives. Find out what the Bible says about women in the church. It's amazing what the women in the church do. They do easily 80-90% of all the work that's done in the church, and the men need to realize that.
Home too. I said in the home too. Generously. Except in our home. Not the most of the work.
Notice when it's listen. I'm not going to say anything right now about that. I don't do it. I will say I don't do it. And she's going to say you don't do anything. I'm going to say, well, then I need to prove. So.
Did I take that back? That shot on cute. I don't like the line middle about it.
Real good. Old versus young. We talked about that last week. Thanks some of the differences. But it could be either one. Young people, they grow up, as soon as they get up thinking about the older people, we're stuck in our ways. We're just the way we are because that's the way we were raised. You might hear things like, in today's society, things need to change. So we need to be careful that we don't, the younger people don't just jump ahead and think something needs to change just because that's the way it is. The older, like I said last week, we are the older group here. When we look at the young people, don't have a preconceived idea that everything they think of is wrong. But listen to them, find out what they're thinking, what they're talking about. Educated versus uneducated. This congregation is blessed with a large number of teachers and educators, and they see it every day in their classrooms and in the parents. Who's more prejudiced toward the other side, the educated or the uneducated? Or both? A lot of times the uneducated, the first thing I thought of were prejudiced toward the educated. In that in today's society, they may think that the other side was privileged to get that education and that they were held back because they're uneducated. Rural or urban? Robertson County, Tennessee. Joe Burns High School. Greenbrier High School. Also Robertson County, Tennessee. What you had to use there? Springfield High School. I'm throwing high school in there because there's a lot of, especially when you're in the paper, you play your baseball team, you're playing each other, your football teams play each other. Then some schools are smaller, can't play the bigger schools, and you get kind of classified as urban and rural. Springfield, we definitely classify them as more more urban, and Joe Burns and East Robertson are more rural, the farming communities. Different attitudes, different hobbies. I doubt that many people in Springfield have a garden or even know what taking potatoes means or hollow hay. They may, I could be wrong. But the people in the country, out in the urban settings, the rural settings, they understand in their mind, what hard work is. And so they got a prejudice against the people in the city because they don't know what hard work really is. If we're not careful, we'll do the same thing in the church. Being here, we're between Springfield and Greenbrier. It's both. We've got cities on both sides of us and farms on the other sides of us. So it can be both ways. Be careful. I think as we go through that, you can see there's cases we can probably think of that go both ways. Number 3, how was prejudice demonstrated in ancient times? Sandra, if you will, go ahead and get Genesis 43:32. And Arnold, if you will, go ahead and get Acts 11:3. John, you want to read for us? Okay. Bobby, if you don't mind, go ahead and get John 8:48. That'll get us through 3 and 4. Demonstrate created in ancient times. Genesis 43:32. What does it say?
And they set out for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which stayed with him by himself, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination to the Egyptians.
What's an abomination?
Sin.
Sin, disgrace. Here we had two different races, the Hebrew nation and the Egyptian nation. And they couldn't do what with each other? Couldn't sit down to eat. What does Acts 11:3 say?
Saying, Thou wentest in to men uncircumcised and eat with them. Talks about eating.
Eating. When you eat with someone, later on we're going to talk about Peter. I think also sitting down with the Jews and being withstood in the face of Paul, I think, is the situation. But eating with someone, when you sit down with someone and you're eating with them, you're having fellowship with them. It's not necessarily the eating part, but when you sit down and you're sharing a meal with someone, most of the time you're getting along pretty good. You don't usually sit down when you're eating. That could be part of it. When's another time that the church is commanded not to eat with someone? In the New Testament. When we just fellowship someone. Once it goes past that point, again, the fellowship needs to be withdrawn from that person, from the individual, by the whole church. And I'll have to get into a lot of discussions about that. As a family, coming together for holidays and stuff, they need to know that you don't approve of their lifestyle. They need to know that we don't approve of their sin. Likewise, we need to be living the life in front of them that they can use us as an example. Or otherwise, we should be careful that we're not causing more damage. The answer to that I put in there was sit down and eat together, Egyptians versus Hebrews, and Jews versus non-Jews. And I guess as I did this, I jumped around a little bit, and I stuck it here to the side. It says the first in the church, if they weren't careful, I'm assuming my writing, I can't really read it all, but the first in the church had a prejudice toward those that were second in the church. In the first century, who heard the truth first? We talked about it Wednesday night.
Jews.
The limited commission went to the Jews first. They were the original children of God. They were if you will, they were, the branches, if you will. Then those that were added in and grafted in, they were warned by God how they should live, how they should conduct themselves, because if God spared not the original branches, how the ones grafted in going to fare is one of the questions that's asked. But the first church, if they weren't careful, they'd be prejudiced towards the Gentiles. That was a lot of the New Testament, was getting those two people to work together. When Christ came, like we talked about, you would think that the Jewish nation would have been eager and willing and accepting of everything he said and everything he did. Most of them weren't. Many were, but most of them weren't. And the day to his death. And God, in his wisdom, saw that, knew that's what would happen. And knew what it had to do for our salvation. And number 4, Bobby, what does it say there in John 8:48?
Then answered the Jews and said unto him, See, we know well that thou art a Samaritan and hast a devil.
Everybody turn over the whole class. Let's flip over to John 8. I want to back up and I don't want to kill a whole lot of time here, but I want to catch up a little bit more than just that one verse. Bobby, if you don't mind, start with verse 38 and read 2 or 3 verses. We'll go around the room and we'll read that whole chapter to the end of that. So 38 on down. Listen to what Jesus has to say here. If you've got a red letter edition, you can tell when he's speaking or things that he said. And think about the people that were here, the first century people, the church, that hadn't started yet, the Jews, Jewish nation, non-Jews, his disciples, obviously, this was at the beginning of his ministry. Verse 39, start there, please.
They answered and said, Abraham is our father. Jesus said unto them, if ye were Abraham's children, ye would do the works of Abraham. But now ye seek to kill me, the man that hath told you the truth, which I have heard of God. This did not Abraham. Ye did the deeds of your father. And said they to him, we be not born of fornication, we have one Father, even God. 42. 42. Okay. John 8:42 will go around with that.
Jesus said unto them, if God were your Father, he would love me, for I proceeded forward and from God. Neither came I on myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? Even because you cannot hear my words.
44.
You are your father, the devil. The desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in you. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, and he is a liar and a false prophet. But because I tell the truth, you do not believe me.
Then answered the Jews and said to him, say we not well that thou art a Samaritan and hast a devil? Jesus answered, I have not a devil, but I honor my Father, and ye do dishonor me. And I seek not my own glory. There is one that seeketh and judgeth. Verily, verily, I say to you, if a man keep my saying, he shall never see death. Then said the Jews unto him, know ye now that thou hast a devil? Abraham is dead, and the prophets and God saith, if a man keep my saying, he shall never taste of death.
Art thou greater than our father Abraham, which is dead, and the prophets are dead? Who makest thou thyself? Jesus answered, if I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father that honoreth me, and whom ye say that he is your God, yet ye have not known him, but I know him. And if I should say I know him not, I should be a liar unto you. But I know him, and keep his saying. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Then said the Jews unto him, thou art not yet 50 years old, and hast thou seen Abraham? Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was I am. Then took the stones to cast at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by.
Appreciate that. I wanted to back up and get more of that because that one verse doesn't carry with it the discussion I think that we really think about happened here. Jesus, the Son of God, perfect example, talking to Jews that didn't believe he was the Son of God. And all through here, all these readings, Jesus was saying, I tell you the truth, I'm the Son of God, basically. verbally telling them that, and then they're arguing back saying, well, you must have a devil because there's no way. You're only 50 years old. There's no way you saw Abraham or Abraham saw you. And you can just picture that going back and forth up to the point where that last verse, they take up stones to kill him. Jesus never lied. And even here in chapter 8 of John, there were already people trying to kill him because they didn't want to hear what he had to say.
It would be harder to say things, I don't want to say more cruel, but I guess it's more cruel of the audience than verse 44 and 8:44. You think we can speak in those terms?
Well, that was one of the things that I kind of thought the author was going to get to of the book. If someone is a liar and won't listen to the truth, for us to say they're the father of the devil, John basically did the same, pointing out the sins of the people who would reward them. I think we can say the same thing and be honest and truthful and upright. You're not of God. You're not God-like. You're not Christ-like when you do these things and you don't believe. I think we need to be careful calling someone, basically the son of Satan. We do a whole lot of damage there. But Jesus, knowing their hearts, knew exactly who they were, knew exactly what they were, and probably knew that he would have to hide himself there in verse 59 to get away from them, because he knew they were going to try to kill him. Appreciate that reading. Like I said, it was quite a bit.
If you were in that audience, all this come up. You should wonder where you would stay.
I think I've thought about that a lot in this book. If I was there, I mean, we kind of give them a hard time because we see it, in hindsight, looking back at, well, they should have seen this, they should have seen this. When Jesus said this, they should have seen this. Many did. We talked about the feeding of the 3,000, the feeding of the 5,000, I think the 4,000 or whatever it was. Thousands of people saw Jesus for what he was and believed, but thousands also didn't accept it and led to his crucifixion. Yeah, we would hope that we would be the ones that saw and obeyed and followed, and like I said, endured up into death that we had to in the first century. Number 5, are words, phrases, expressions of hate and prejudice ever justified? Ephesians 4:29. Sandra, go ahead and flip over there. I'll let you start over there. While you're there, get chapter 5, verse 4 also. Arnold, if you look at Colossians 3:8, and Bible will start back with you on this side of Matthew 12:36 and 37.
Mine again.
John 4:7, 8, and 9. Number 6 in the book.
4:29. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearts. 4, neither filthiness nor foolish talking nor jesting, which are not convenient, rather giving of thanks.
That conversation we just had about verse 44, calling someone a child of Satan. Time we get down to in Ephesians, down to the church, we're supposed to be edifying one another, building each other up, put up all filthy communication. Telling the truth to me is not a filthy communication or corrupt speech, but it can be very damaging to that person if they turn from the truth and never want to listen, never want to talk about it again. We never give up on the truth, we never change the truth, but the way we apply, I just say that, could drive someone off if we're not careful. Walk them out in their shoes, talk to them, find out what they're thinking, where they're at, so that we can try to help, maybe set up a steady, maybe set up Maybe just something like, a meal to talk to them. Find out what they're doing. Find out what they need. Be truthful and upfront with them. And, we're trying to teach them the truth and not lord it over them. I think it's something we need to do in the church especially. Our hearts filled with love and grace when we talk to people about their soul. Colossians 3:8. What does it say there?
Now you must put off these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communications out of the mouth.
Good note. It says read more. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. There's Colossians 3 would be a good read this afternoon if it rains and you can't get anything else to do. Colossians 3, again, verse 8, talking about put those things off, the filthy communication out of your mouth. Don't let it be known of you. And then talking about lying to one to another. So you put off the old man with his deeds. You put off that old man of sin, and you moved on. And then lastly, Matthew 12:36-37.
I say to you that every idle word that you speak should be counted as one for by thy word thou shalt be justified, and by thy word thou shalt be condemned.
Should that verse worry me today? Should that verse make me stop and think of the opportunities that I've had to teach someone? Should that make me kind of stop and think about what my hobbies are? I think it should. Every idle word. It didn't say every evil word or every filthy word. It says every idle word. What's idle mean? Worthless.
No intent.
No intent.
No use.
No use. Not needed.
Having all. Like.
You're fine. I think we know. Think about what we say, what we do, how we act, especially when we talk to others. We come to someone, and I've kind of played this in my mind several times. There are people that decided to not come to the churches of Christ because the truck driver asked them how their walk with Christ was going that day. And now they're a deacon in the Baptist church. People like that, we've seen people that, because someone said something, and in that case, I've been working and staying with him for a little bit, thought he was on the right path, had some agreements going when we read, and then the truck driver turned to him in a heartbeat. A stranger, probably never seen him again in his life. And like I said, he'd been here before, and he's never been back since. So we need to be careful. We could have been like that truck driver and just out of the blue ask somebody someday, just randomly, are you a Christian? Do you believe the Word of God? And start a study. Other people are doing it without the whole truth. We need to be careful. We are doing it with the truth. But you need to account for every idle word. That bothers me a little bit. I think that's way too many idle words going around. Any other comments about this? I've gone through these first 5 or 6 questions pretty easily, pretty quickly. Anybody want to jump in and just feel free. Let's go and keep this class. Number 6, how do we obtain our prejudices? John 4:7, 8, 9.
Woman, spirit, the water. Jesus said when they were given the drink. For the disciples were strong away from the city about Jesus. Then said the woman, spirit, how is it that thou being a Jew, askest drink of me, which is the woman of spirit? For the Jews have no dealings with the spirits. I think that's where you say stop.
That's the second time in this lesson. My voice probably just changed to pop my ears so I can hear weird things right now. Samaritan from Samaria. Where was that? What is Samaria? When you say Samaritan, what comes to mind?
Mixture.
Mixture. Hatred. The Jews hated them. Here Jesus was talking to her. Worried about her soul, worried about her condition. He looked through that, looked past that. He himself, if you think about what was read in John earlier, was called, you're a Samaritan, you got a devil. The Jews, they weren't saying it to compliment him. They were saying it because they hated him. But here, on the other, the Samaritan says, you being a Jew, why are you even talking to me? So race comes into it quite often. Culture, historical fact, or beliefs. I'm going to throw this out and keep moving quickly. Muslims in America, what do you think of? Rednecks in the South. Hypocrites in the church. That's just three things that I kind of threw out thinking in my mind. I have preconceived ideas. And I hate to say it, but not all rednecks are bad. But hypocrites in the church, think about that. Our preconceived ideas in the church will drive people away. We need to be careful. Again, the Confederate flag, the rednecks running around with flags over their trucks. I know we're fighting for freedom of speech, but what's the real point? What are you trying to throw it back on somebody for? There's still a lot of, I think, tension. I'll use that race here in the South. I think even in the future, there's going to be more issues with Muslims as they continue to come to America. Immigrants that keep coming to America. It's not going to stop. It's still going to continue. We've got to be advanced, prepared, and ready. Any other thoughts on that? How do we obtain our prejudices? A lot of times we get it at home when we're children. Maybe get off the TV, get off the internet, things that our friends are saying when we grow up. That's where it starts. Or something happens to us and we see something on the news, it fits, and we just say, well, they're all like that. We lump everybody together because, maybe some are, maybe some aren't. We need to be careful. Again, we make our mind without understanding all the facts. But know the facts and take action on that best you can. How do we get rid of this prejudice? Acts 10, this is kind of where I wanted to kind of key on. Acts 10, know that God is no respecter of persons. This was the case of Cornelius calling Peter. Peter's vision that he saw coming down from heaven, what God has made clean, that no man call unclean, basically. And he went to Gentiles, to Cornelius' house. So God did not see it that way. Man did. It's all prejudice bad. 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 8. It leans toward, those verses lean toward yes. Flip over, if you will. Sister Dan, if you will, get 1 Corinthians 4, 13, 1 through 8. That's good. That's fine. As far as the ways to get rid of this prejudice, there in chapter 13, always the love that is shown, what it profits, what it does for us, what it will do for us in this life and the next. Being careful for nothing in our own souls, but watching always for those of others. Love one another like Christ loved us. What are we willing to do for a stranger? What are we willing to do for a friend? What was Christ willing to do for us? I think God's doing a good job trying to make us step back and look at our own lives, look at our own feelings, our own thoughts. Number 9, he continues to describe the rich can hurt the possessor. An atheist mocked what was being taught, delayed the hearing of the truth, and most likely probably never obeyed. Question number 9A. 9B, religious world. Matthew 13, 14 through 17. This is where I started off on my thought process of the first century church. They had to be open-minded to the truth because Christ was teaching something different. The day of worship was changing. The temple was changing. The priesthood changed. The sacrifices changed. They had to be willing and accepting of the truth. Otherwise, if they do, like the Judaizing teachers that continue to hold on to the Jewish religion, never changed, never made the connection. And lastly, 9C, the Christian from Galatians 2, 11 through 14. Jews and Gentiles, all must hear and obey the truth. And that's the key there. Flip over, if you will, Sister Sue, if you will, get 1 John 1 and read 45, 46, 47 there for us. And, John 1. Yes, 46 and 47.
Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see."
That one little verse there tells you a lot about kind of what I started out this lesson about. If you're wearing an East Robertson t-shirt or a Greenbrier t-shirt or a Springfield t-shirt at Walmart, you are associated with some people immediately. Here, Jesus Christ himself from Nazareth, Nathanael, first impression, can any good thing come out of Nazareth? He already had in mind nothing good is ever going to come out of Nazareth. So, what I like about it is verse 47. Jesus saw Nathanael coming and said to him, "Behold, the Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile, no dishonesty." But yet he had issues, he had problems about his precious that he had toward the city of Nazareth. But we know that he became a disciple. Nathanael answered 49 and said to him, "Rabbi, thou art the Son of God, thou art the King of Israel." And Jesus answered said to him, "Because I said to thee, I saw thee under the fig tree, believest thou? Thou shalt see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, hereafter you shall see heaven open, and angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." Jesus Christ, our Savior, talking directly to Nathanael, who previously had preconceived ideas against where he was born, where Jesus came from. Excuse me. Nathanael was not a bad person. Question number 8. He was a good man. And what did Philip do? There, 10b. What did Philip just do? How do you react to Nathanael's preface? What did he say to him? When you heard what Nathanael said about that, what did Philip say?
Come and see.
Come and see. Investigate. Come and check that out. That goes back to what we started with. Make up your mind after you find the facts. That's the key to the whole lesson. In my opinion, that was we timed up pretty good there. Come and see. Same thing we do with the church. Teach people, talk to people, come and see, come and read, come and study. All those things, open the door. And we need to be out there telling people, come and see what we do. Come and see what we study. Come and see the Word of God. Hopefully we'll find someone that's got that good, honest heart looking for the truth. Is prejudice a natural human emotion and God given? I'm going to say no. I don't think, like I said, we've seen people, kids growing up together, and they don't realize there's a difference until somebody tells them there's a difference. Lots of times between skin color, between what city they were born and raised in. A lot of it's hereditary. We get it from our parents if we're not careful. So we need to be careful. What are some of the motivations that make us prejudiced? I think it goes back to the second question about rich and poor, what we do in a career, what we do, how other people try to get ahead or not, the ability to work or not. Different motivations make us prejudiced. How can one tell if he's prejudiced or not? How can you really tell if you've already got preconceived ideas? How do you know? You don't see any difference. You see a soul and you don't make any distinction about what they are, who they are, where they came from, the color of their skin. I keep going back to the color of their skin because it's so obvious. I'm not making fun of it, but it's black and white. It's that simple. Many times that we can get over that, we need to be careful. Many times it's not that simple. I'll go quickly say that. Appreciate your attendance, your reading, especially comments. Lord willing, we'll pick up next time with guilt. Thank you for being here.
Hopefully not too long. I go back Tuesday, so we'll see.
Yes.